All right, guys, so here we are in Tucson, Arizona, just wrapping up a week of whatever you do in Tucson, Arizona, which is everything related to gemstones and jewelry. And before we left, I wanted to, while I was in here in the moment, answer a couple questions from a friend of mine who's going to be asking me a few things about the gemstone industry, and I'm just going to kind of give my opinion on it. I know a lot of people that come to the YouTube channel or see my Facebook videos kind of like to get my take on things because I'm just kind of a real guy, and I'm just going to give it to you in a real way and talk to you in a way that maybe isn't too candy coated or too wordy. So without further ado, I'm going to answer a few questions, and hopefully we'll all learn something from it and have fun, because that's what it's all about. In my humble opinion, I know very little in comparison to most people in the industry, but what I like to do is share what I know, and hopefully that helps. And so without further ado.
Okay, I have a first question. What's your opinion on the state of the gem industry?
The state of the gem industry. I feel like the state of the gemstone industry itself is great. It's amazing. With social media and having these platforms to get people involved in it and to get interest in it, which is exactly what we're trying to do. Us vloggers or people that talk about it, the number one thing we're trying to do, and the number one thing you have to do with all industries, is lift it up as a whole. You know, we really want to understand that lifting ourselves up individually isn't going to help anything. We have to, you know, kind of help out everybody and just kind of promote what we do, whether we're stone fasteners, whether we're jewelers, whatever it is. We want to do that as a whole. So I think that the gemstone industry is doing very well. If you want to look at basic numbers, I think that you can look that the jewelry numbers were down a little bit this year. The earnings were a little bit lower, but as far as gemstone numbers, I think they've stayed about the same, and we're seeing more people get involved in it. We're seeing more people showing interest in it. So I'm really excited about it. I think it's a great time to be in the gemstone, especially the colored gemstone industry.
Okay, what's it like in Tucson?
What's it like in Tucson? Tucson is, it's an amazing place. It's kind of amazing how you can get so many people in a small area, relatively, like these shows, you go under a tent and there's literally thousands of people under it. But it's one of the only places that you can go and be around all these people and there not be this kind of feeling of unsettledness, a feeling of unrest. You know, sometimes when you get around a lot of people, you just feel anxious or you feel uncomfortable. And when you're at Tucson at the gem and mineral shows, you don't really have that. The people are always really great, really kind. Everybody's excited to be here. So it's a good place to be. It's hard to explain it in its entirety because Tucson itself is a city that has hundreds of gem shows. It's not just one gem show. You have gem shows for rock hounds. You have gem shows for retailers, for wholesalers, for jewelers, for crystal collectors. And what you're going to see when you get here is that you're going to have to find whatever your niche is. So it's always going to do you good to kind of scout and do a little recon. Just come out for 3 days. Just come out for 2 days. Pick a couple shows, go to them. The next year, you'll have a little bit more familiarity. And I can assure you, by your second year, you're going to know your way around a lot better than you think and kind of get a grasp of it. So if I were to describe it one way, it would be a city full of gem shows for about 6 or 8 weeks. So it's an amazing thing.
Okay, what's the main thing the industry could use?
Excuse me, just getting over a cold. The main thing the industry could use. Good question. I can think of a lot of things that the industry could use, but I think the number one thing would probably be a combination. Well, I think one has to do with the other. I think we absolutely need more continuity. I think the one thing that people like about the gym industry is it kind of has a Wild West type of feel to it. Meaning there isn't really a governing body that's going to tell you where to sell your gemstones, how much to sell them for, how to market them, who to sell them to, who to buy them from. That's something you get to decide. It's not regulated like maybe some things were like alcohol or maybe certain prescriptions or maybe even books for that matter. You find more regulations in publication than you do in the gemstone industry. So branching off on that, I think the most important thing that we could use in the gemstone industry would be a leader. One person that maybe could form and by all means it's never just one person that runs everything. One person puts together a council, and a council, advises that person, and then they make a decision. The reason why I think that we need some sort of figurehead is to, one, have somebody that people can look to when they think of the industry. When they think of the gemstone industry, I'm personally tired of people having this vision of maybe somebody on Facebook, maybe somebody who is standing on a corner, selling glass in Bangkok, or just kind of these back alley or kind of cutthroat mystical things that go on. We need a better public view. We need more people that are going to promote what we're doing. People don't know. They just simply do not know about it. And when you have somebody or an identity or a figure that you can turn to, that can be the end all be all that you can go to and say, hey, we have a question. I know that Christopher Smith, probably one of the best gemologists on the planet. He is the owner of American Gemological Laboratories in New York, was the chief gemologist, I think, for GIA for a long time. There's nobody more respected on the planet. And he has recently come out with a color coding a process to where you can look at a color, identify it with a stone, because he's used cut stones and the color of the cut stones, which don't always replicate in the rough. The problem with this is that it's all subjective. Unless this is improved or approved by a governing body, by somebody who is going to say, yes, we accept this is the end all be all. It's the gospel. It's subject for change. It's subject for amendment, but we adopt this. So when you have that person, when you have that woman president, man president, whatever, of the industry, and the president and his governing body say, we really accept Mr. Smith's vision of how to describe colors of gemstones, and then it becomes not only just U.S. wide, but it becomes worldwide because the U.S. is such a strong market. So the number one thing I think we need is better leadership, a leader, period.
How do you feel about social media in the gemstone industry?
Love it. Love social media in the gemstone industry. But like with all things, it's going to have its pitfalls. And the bad thing about it is that there are so many bad things about it. And you have to just think about it and use it according to how it's going to benefit you. Social media really blessed me. It gave me a small platform. It gave me a starting point. It allowed me to actually do business, to turn my gemstone hobby into a money-making business that would pay bills, that would help take care of my daughter and my wife and my family and my animals, and do all these things, and actually turned it into a tangible part of my life that was very important. And I'll always be grateful for that. But unfortunately, social media is simply nothing but a giant opinion. And too often, group admins, public people, they not much different than me. They can come to have influence, and somebody who's new in the gemstone industry can't differentiate somebody who's actually trying to help them than from somebody who's just a little power hungry, or somebody who just wants to be controlling, on social media page and dictate to you how you should maybe display a gemstone. Maybe you'll hear things like, well, your gemstone needs to have a white background, or it needs to have these specific measurements, or it needs to be this, that. And I understand that groups all have rules and regulations that are very much needed. But when those things are put in a light as if they're the only way, then that's a problem. Because what happens in a place like that, where it's not, democratic at all, is that it's just, you're wrong, you don't know, and you're gone. And what that does is it takes that person that we needed in the gemstone industry, or that takes that person that could have attributed a lot of things that was just in the beginning, and you've just fucking lost them. You've crushed them because they didn't post something the way you wanted to do it. So I think we have to be very careful with how we pick the people that we choose to listen to on social media. And we also have to be very realistic about it. Social media is great for what it is, but in the gemstone market, in the jewelry market, there's a number. And that number caps out at right about $500 on Facebook, where if that's what you're interested in earning, then by all means, Facebook away. But you simply are not, if it's going to be your business, if it's going to be your job, as many of you know, I'm a lapidary artist. I cut gemstones and make a little jewelry. And you guys know my partner Jeannie and I travel and do a lot of shows around the country as well. Unless you're doing that, unless you're getting out and beating the pavement and having integrity doing that, you're going to cap out. You're going to hit a limit early on. You're going to hit a limit early on. And if $25,000 or $50,000 a year is enough for you, then by all means, just double down on Facebook, double down on Instagram. That's not enough for me. I'm going to be quite honest with you. I want to earn millions. I want to earn billions and billions and billions of dollars, and I want to buy all my family homes and brand new cars and do all these amazing things. And so I had to look elsewhere besides social media to do these things. And I think that we all have to do that to a certain degree. So social media is great, but it definitely does have its downfall. And I think that we have to understand the data that we're getting in on it now. We didn't know what social media was doing. We didn't know how it was affecting the industry and things like that. What we've seen is it's brought a lot of people together. But what we've also seen is it causes a lot of unnecessary strife. And it makes people act maybe out of character in a way that they wouldn't normally do. You see that a lot of times. People will get on the computer and they will have some sort of an issue, and they'll say some bat crazy shit to you that they would never say to you in person. So you're getting somebody who's not genuine. You're getting somebody who is on social media mode, You know, they talk differently. They seem real nice. They are happy. They're, you know, selfies with their sunglasses on, or at the gym, or, you know, everything's great. And we know now that that's all bullshit. We know now that that's not really life. And so you have to be very careful, because if somebody's representing themselves not 100% accurately on social media, then it might translate into their business. So I think it's an awesome thing. I think it's an excellent thing, but I think it's also a playground where abuse runs rampant. So be careful if you want to do that.
Thank you.
Well, I hope that answered your questions, and guys, hope that you might have liked something that we talked about. And if you guys ever want to know anything more about Tucson and how maybe you can get more involved with it, feel free to send me a DM, send me an email, or go directly to my website, www.davidleegems.com, or follow us on Instagram or Facebook or wherever we're at. The point being is that the gemstone and jewelry industry has done so much for me and all my colleagues, is that I feel it incumbent that we try to give some of that shit back. And whether it be a donation or whether it be some solid advice, no matter what it is that we give, it's going to be 100%, and it's going to be something that we're going to give you directly, like this, not like this. So I hope it helps, and hope all you guys that are still in Tucson have a great time. And until next time, we'll see you then. Thanks, guys.